So this is just kind of a follow-up Periscope to my previous one where I was doing my self-portrait. People were working and it was getting kind of difficult to hear even myself, and I didn't know if it was hard to hear me. And the workers are gone now, so I think it'd be a lot easier to talk. So I could give a few more details on what I was doing, even though the shooting part is done. Like, for instance, I can show you how I was able to set my focus. I know that I wanted to stand on that white mark, which at the time was actually a black and white board. So I just put stuff where I knew I would be standing. And I had a bag. And I just took it, piled it on top, so that it would be in the approximate location. Here, I'll show you. Approximate location of where I would be standing. So when I went back to my camera, I could set the focus on my camera on that bag. And then I used a little bit more medium f-stop because I wanted more in focus. I didn't need a nice shallow depth of field with blurry background or anything, because it's just a wall, and I'm replacing the wall in Photoshop anyway with a cooler wall that I took photos of on Tuesday. So that's actually how I start my self-portraits. I have to, if I don't have somebody with me, to have an assistant. I use props, I use anything that's with me to help me get my focus. And then as soon as I do get the focus, I take my lens and I turn it on manual focus, so that when I hit the shutter every time, it doesn't refocus the shot. The focus is set. And then all I have to do is run back and forth and hit the button. I don't have a remote for this particular camera that I'm using today. And a lot of times I don't like the remotes anyway. The remotes, you have to figure out where to hide it in your hand or where to hide it. And especially today when I was using two props and one in each hand, would have been way too difficult to use a remote and then try to hide it. And I would have had to throw the remote. And quite frankly, at that point, it's just as much work and effort to just go and hit the button again, which is what I did. And I just walked back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Today's portrait was fairly easy for that. I've done some really physical ones where I am so exhausted just doing the jump or running up and down something that does get more tiresome, and sometimes I'll bring an assistant to hit the shutter button. But for today, this was pretty straightforward on what I was doing. And the other thing about what I do is, you know, your props don't have to be fancy. Nothing has to be overly expensive. This is a cheap costume. I'm hoping it will work for what I'm doing today. But I plan to Photoshop a lot of the costume. I just needed a base. And I could have used any blue dress, honestly, in a white apron. But I already had this costume, so I went ahead and used it. But in Photoshop, I'm going to edit out the little cat. You can kind of see him and make it a little less cartoony, costumey looking, and I plan to make it a little bit better. I might add like some textures, like a texture overlay, just to spruce it up. It kind of depends. I'll see when I get all the images into Photoshop where my vision is going to take me. And then I just went around the house. I knew I needed a bunny. This is a bunny that I got probably when I was born. And if not when I was born, 2 months old, something. It's a really old bunny. It's, you know, kind of vintage looking. So I liked that because I want it to be a more subtle. I wasn't looking for a white rabbit that looked, if I wanted it to look like the white rabbit, I could have done that. I have all the props to make a white rabbit. I've done that kind of an Alice in Wonderland before. And so I'm actually going to turn him blue in Photoshop because I want him blue. I want the whole picture is going to be very blue. It's going to kind of have a blue editing style to it as well. And then I just found I did an Alice in Wonderland themed photo back in 2012 with my whole family. And we had collected little vintage teacups. I just went through, I keep all my props. So I just went through my garage this morning and grabbed one, 50 cents at Goodwill, and it is fine china. I have a whole set of this set actually, and it works out good because the flower was already blue, and I just wanted little props. You know, the whole idea for this portrait actually came from the umbrella itself, which my great aunt is named Alice. And we were moving her, and she was getting rid of a lot of her stuff. She's 91 years old. And so I ended up with her Alice umbrella that she had gotten made somewhere, you know. I think she said she got it done in the 80s. So it's, you know, it's a 25, 30-year-old prop as well. But what I loved about it was that as soon as I saw Alice and that it was blue, my mind went to Alice in Wonderland. So I knew I wanted to use the umbrella. And I just started jotting down notes and writing rabbit, teacup, and that's just how it comes together, and that's how I come up with my thoughts for, you know, these sorts of things. It's nothing fancy. It's a lot of note-taking. I live on taking notes. I love notepads. I go through at least a notepad a month. And not all the ideas come out, and I don't share a lot of my ideas either. Some of them, I mean, I've taken photos, and I've been doing, kind of changing my portrait style for the last maybe 3 or 4 months, and I haven't really shared a lot of that yet. I'm waiting to see if I can get like a collection together. But basically, it's not that hard to kind of put together a little bit kind of creative photo. This one was just, I wanted to kind of do something a little bit more simpler and fun. So this one will have, the final product will have where each hand is holding one of these props. The umbrella will basically be my head. And we'll have Alice over it so that Alice is forefront. I will be editing out all the other Alices. It actually says Alice 4 times. I will be editing out all those. I just want it the one time. It's going to have a real nice blue feel. And the background is like this really nasty wall. And I just basically wanted a wall so that I could get the good edge at the bottom between the fake black and white floor that I wanted. I wanted it to be black and white tiles. And I've already gotten a few photos that I went to a place that actually has black and white tiling and various angles, so I might end up overlaying that on the floor as well just to clean it up. And then I'm going to overlay on the back of me a better textured wall with cracks and whatever. When I get into my editing, I'll get a feel for exactly what I want.